Hello and welcome to the penultimate event at the Alfa Romeo Championship. This weekend, you're joining us in Rockingham Motor Speedway. Now, sadly, this is the last time the Alfas will be gracing the track here, but speaking of better things, I've got Paul Webster here, so can you just give me a quick lowdown on what's happening with this championship so far?
Well, there's Tom Hill's out in front quite by a way, by about 30 odd points at the moment in Twin Sparks, and then there's probably 4 or 5 of us that are very close together. Some are not doing Alton Park, myself and 1 or 2 others are, but it's quite tight at the top for second place.
So do you have any plans going into race 1 of today?
Stay in front of the Twin Sparks going into the first corner and then hopefully pull away from everyone else. I was a couple of seconds quicker, so if I can stay in front, then hopefully I'll stay in front.
Brilliant, right, well, we wish you the best of luck of it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lyndsay. Well, Paul Webster, twice a winner this year, will start on pole ahead of Scott Austin and Robin Mansell. Unfortunately, the Power Trophy cars thin on the ground. The same, though, thankfully not true of the Twin Sparks, where we have Tom Hill and Christian Leith, then Richard Ford and Dave Messenger, ahead of a returning Andy Hancock and Riccardo Lasselli, Mel Freeman, Andy Inman and Avni Ropika round out field. Well, we would expect most of the action to come from the Twin Sparks, but we'll wait and see what happens at the front of the field with the silver car of Paul Webster on the pole position after missing the last couple of rounds. He knows, therefore, that in all likelihood his championship hopes are gone. He's just out for some good fun and to try and work his way as far up the order as he can. Starts on pole position alongside Scott Austin with Robin Mansell there on row number 2. Lights out, away they go, and Robin Mansell goes nowhere. It's going to be the race lead down towards turn 1 for Paul Webster. Scott Austin second, and only now does the power of Robin Mansell's car pull him clear of the Twin Sparks, where Tom Hill is leading that class. Dave Messenger and Christian Leith are side by side for second position. And coming around the outside there looks to be Riccardo Lasselli as they charge down towards turn number 1. Messenger late on the brakes there, trying to close in on Tom Hill. They turn through the left-hander. Bit of argy-bargy there. They're 3 abreast for second place, and Riccardo Lasselli on the outside line was always going to get elbowed out of the way, and they come out of the corner with Dave Messenger into second place in the class now. Third position for Leith, 4th place is Lasselli, 5th for Richard Ford, who last time we followed the championship we saw in the gravel trap at the first corner at Silverstone after contact with Christian Leith. Well, we'll wait and see whether they resume their battle a bit later on. Then it's the 27 car of Riccardo Lasselli, followed by Avni Ropika. So I didn't see, in fact there were a few cars were missing, but I certainly didn't see any sign of Andy Hancock there. There was one car that was in the pit lane, I noticed, as the race started. Didn't quite pick up the number though. Try and get to that in a moment or two. Up towards Gracelands comes the fight for second place in the Twin Spark category, with Dave Messenger coming under all sorts of pressure here from Christian Leith. Christian in the silver number 32 car. There's a witness mark on the side of his car from contact presumably through the Dean hairpin, where it often gets a bit congested on the opening lap. But as they drop down into the Tarzan hairpin, the tightest corner on the circuit, therefore one of the best overtaking opportunities, and Dave Messenger opening the door wide open for Christian Leith there as he lost the rear of the car going into the corner. Now that meant that he ran wide through it, but then had better momentum off it, and so with the inside line down to the chicane, it does look as though Messenger might be able to hang on. Leith trying to go around the outside though, gives him the inside line for the right-hander, clambers over the curb, bounces back on the road. There's more contact between the two of them. Messenger side by side through the corner with Christian Leith, and they're so preoccupied with each other. Yes, I thought Richard Ford must be there somewhere, and Riccardo Lasselli, and they're both going to go through. Lasselli's got past both of them, Richard Ford's doing the same thing, and that really was all because Christian Leith wasn't prepared to just give away one position. He tried to go right around the outside through the left-hander, but that meant that they really tripped over each other through the middle of the chicane. They're still tripping over each other now, in fact all 4 of them, as they drop down in towards the Dean hairpin, and Richard Ford looks at the inside of Riccardo Lasselli, who's got 2 cars to the outside. They were 4 abreast momentarily there as they turned into the Dean hairpin. Dave Messenger exited stage right and ended up on the grass. He's fallen right down to the back of the pack now. It's possibly the safest place for him though, because it's all getting very, very lively in front. Again, Messenger is sideways, possibly with dirt on his tyres now, and that all started because of a sideways moment for the 79 car up at Tarzan hairpin. But this is why I, for one, am going to be sad to lose the Rockingham Motor Speedway from the UK motor racing scene, because it provides great racing. One little bobble or one overtake that backs the field up can create the next 2 or 3 laps worth of side-by-side racing, and we saw a great example of it there. Back up the hill they go then, and it is the 18 car then of, that is Andy Hancock, I beg your pardon, so I'm getting Andy Hancock and Riccardo Lascelli confused, which I knew I would do, because Riccardo Lascelli has been driving so far this season in a car liveried exactly the same as Andy Hancock's. While Andy making a return to the championship, he is in the blue and white car there. Richard Ford tried to attack him around the outside at Tarzan, couldn't do it. Christian Leith is trying to draw alongside therefore and take advantage of that. These two resuming their battle from Silverstone, where, as I said, they did make contact. It was unintentional, I'm sure, but the contact did see Richard Ford end up in the gravel trap just as it looked as though he was moving forwards up the order. Unfortunately, ended his race out of the race in the gravel trap at Copse Corner, but he's going strongly here in third place. This all is happening behind the race leader, and some way behind the race leader as well, because Tom Hill is checking out now at the front of the field, and this has been something we've seen him do on many occasions this year. He's not that much quicker than the rest of the twin spark category. He just gets off the line well and then escapes all of the drama behind, and that's why Tom Hill arrives here at Rockingham 18 points clear of Christian Leith in the championship. Well, Christian Leith is now in the silver car, running in 4th position now, with Tom Hill leading the way. On board with Dave Messenger, looking back at the 61 car of Mel Freeman. So Andy Inman, Avni Rapika and Riccardo Lascelli appear to be the 3 cars that didn't take the start for some reason. Look through the gears towards Chapman Curve we go, though. Great rear-facing camera here, looking through the rear wing of the twin-spark engined Alfa Romeo 156. The rear wing is not mandatory within the regulations. You can choose to run without it, and indeed the 61 car of Mel Freeman is doing just that. And out on the banking, that will give him a little bit more straight line speed because there's a bit less drag, but of course through the corners the rear wing is not there to give him a bit of extra downforce. To see some extra variety in the championship this weekend as well, with the 27 car in front. Now that is Lascelli, isn't it? So yes, so Lascelli is in a 147 this weekend, it would appear. Doing his best to confuse commentators left, right and centre is Riccardo Lascelli, while driving numerous different cars over the season with numerous different liveries. There's contact there between the 61 machine of Mel Freeman and the 79 of Dave Messenger. Again, I'm not convinced that had to happen, but they came out on the other side with minimal damage. So yes, Lascelli in the 147 then, up the road. And the 147, which we haven't seen all that much of this season. We've seen Andrew Fulcher out in a 147 though earlier on in the season, and indeed he won both races last time out at Brands Hatch at the Festival Italia race meeting, but Andrew not here this weekend. It's not very often these days that we see a 147 winning the twin spark class. He was helped by the fact that Tom Hill had another DNF, and that is Tom's second non-finish of the season. So Tom Hill, who he may well be leading the championship, but he has used up now both of his dropped scores. You drop your 2 worst finishes, or 2 worst scores I should say, of the season. So with 2 non-finishes, that is Tom Hill's allocation of drop scores used up. Christian Leith, however, has had a slightly more consistent season, so he's dropping more points at the moment. But if Tom Hill were to have another non-finish, then that could really change the championship complexion. Through Chapman Curve goes Christian Leith. Just behind him there is Riccardo Lascelli in the shorter wheelbase 147, which dances its way through the technical infield section, but maybe through some of the high-speed corners has a little bit less high-speed stability. Lascelli, who was very entertaining to watch at Silverstone a few rounds ago, where we saw him pick up a podium finish in both races. Riccardo then went on to race again in the 156 last time out at Brands Hatch, but to slightly less success. Had a couple of dramas that weekend. That is the car that Andy Hancock is pedalling right now in second place in the twin spark category. Andy Hancock, who is a former front runner in the championship for many a year, in fact, not doing full year this year, so loading the car out to Riccardo for certain rounds and then coming in and driving it himself at others. There's Richard Ford, the man who is 3rd in the championship, and only 9 points behind Christian Leith. And then it all gets very close because Dave Messenger is on 156 points. He's 4th in the championship as we follow Paul Webster coming through the Dean hairpin this time around. So Messenger 4th in the championship, 156. Scott Austin is 5th on 154. Simon McPhee is 6th on 153. And Paul Webster is 7th on 152. So you've got 4 drivers covered by 4 points from 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th in the championship, and we may not have many of the Power Trophy cars here, but 2 of those 3 are Power Trophy cars, and they're those two are both here this weekend, with Scott Austin running second at the moment, Paul Webster in the lead. So Webster would, at the moment, be set to move from 7th in the points to 4th in the points, because, of course, you score points within your class. It's not about where you finished overall. So although Dave Messenger, of course, is behind him in the points, Dave Messenger, the man who's 4th in the championship at the moment, he's behind him on the track as well. But crucially, he's not running as high up within his class as Paul Webster is. So Paul will take some points out of him here. He'll only be scoring half points, though, because there are only 3 starters in the Power Trophy this weekend. So you score half points, but still, he will take some points. He'll take enough points out of Dave Messenger at the moment to move into 4th in the championship. Of course, Scott Austin's in the same class as him, and Simon McPhee is not here. So his nearest rival's immediately in front of him in the points. He is outscoring them in this race. So back along the pit straight goes Paul Webster as he continues on his way. Looking very strong, a bit like we saw from Graham Seager last time he joined the championship at Silverstone. He took a double race victory fairly comfortably in his modified GTV. Scott Austin here had a few dramas at Silverstone. He was off in race 1 and the pace just dropped away in race 2. He ended up losing second place to Ray Foley fairly late on. Scott Austin then went to Brands Hatch and had a bit of an up and down day there as well. A non-finish in race 1 when he was running fairly strongly, and then in race number 2, a 5th place finish only, and that was 5th overall and 5th within the Power Trophy. So it was a bit of a disappointing weekend for Scott Austin, and that's what has seen him drop down to 15 points now. He had been right in contention. The stunning 155 Alfa Romeo, some wonderful 90s boxiness with the shape of the 155, but it was a real favourite of fans all over the world, and of course the touring car version of the 155 enjoying a lot of success in the UK. Gabriele Tarquini taking it to the 1994 British Touring Car Championship, and it's enjoyed even more success overseas in European Touring Car Championships for many a year, actually, before it was replaced later on by the 156. 155, this not being a super touring version, this is a production version modified, but it bears a striking resemblance to the race versions of some 20 years ago, and 24 years ago technically, since the last time an Alfa Romeo won the British Touring Car Championship. Of course, Scott's namesake, Rob Austin, nowadays competing in an Alfa Romeo Giulietta in the BTCC, showing that Alfa still have a really strong presence in motorsport, right from grassroots up to the very top levels of international and national motor racing. Back with the twin spark cars here, this is the fight for third, and Richard Ford has got himself a lot of pressure here from Christian Leith. Christian Leith trying to work his way back up the order here, trying to score as many points as he can. Well, Richard Ford has found a way past him and is now starting to streak away. This is a bit like what we saw at Silverstone, where Richard doesn't necessarily start that well, but then once the race settles down into a rhythm, he seems to come on strong. He's got every chance of catching Andy Hancock and potentially getting second place in the class as well. He's only 9 points behind Christian Leith for second in the championship at the moment as well, so this is quite significant. If he can manage to pull away from Christian and maybe take a few more points out of him, then that would be all the better for him. You score 20 points for, oh dear, Christian Leith off on the grass. I interrupt myself then. Christian Leith running wide, and that will hand some more points to Richard Ford anyway, or well, possibly, although it looked like Riccardo Lascelli was going to go through. Actually, as they run down towards Yentwood, yeah, it looks as though Christian Leith is able to stay in front. So Christian Leith hangs on, but by the skin of his teeth. That'll teach me to start looking down at the regulations, because as soon as I take my eyes off the screen, something was always going to happen. Christian Leith outbraking himself down at the Dean Hairpin. He gathered it together, but Riccardo Lascelli is now applying the pressure. The point I was about to make before I interrupted myself is that he scored 20 points for a class victory, and 18 for second, 16 for third, and so on and so forth. So they go down in 2-point increments essentially. So as things stand at the moment, Richard Ford in third, Christian Leith in fourth. That's only a 2-point swing, but if Christian Leith were to lose another place and Richard Ford were to gain another place, then all of a sudden that gap starts to come down quite comprehensively. Tom Hill and Paul Webster at the moment both on for class victories apiece, so they're going to score the same amount of points. Paul Webster 7th in the championship though, and some 45 points off the championship lead. There's a cone that's been dragged out into the middle of the road there on the school straight. Not quite sure who's deposited that on the racing line, but a few of the drivers just diving out of the way to try and avoid it. Probably wouldn't do any damage, but you don't want to take the risk. It's Christian Leith now trying to gather his thoughts together after that moment that he had down at the Dean Hairpin last time through. Starts to build up the speed once more. This is a nice battle going on between Dave Messenger and Mel Freeman. Mel Freeman getting quicker and quicker the more we see of him, and Dave Messenger in the 79 car is just about fending Mel off, but it looks as though Freeman's close enough to have a go here, down towards the back end of the back straight, towards the Dean Hairpin. He goes to the outside line. Dave Messenger holds the middle ground to try and defend. Where's Freeman gone? There's Mel Freeman, and there's not quite room for the number 61 Alfa to work its way through. Turn now through Yentwood with still Messenger in front. This is a cracking rear view though, showing actually the speeds that these cars get up to around here. They can sometimes look a bit pedestrian from afar. Perhaps one of the criticisms of the Rockingham circuit is that all of the spectator areas are so far away from where the action takes place out here on the infield. They can often look like they're barely moving when they're off at a distance, but believe me, even these production Alfa Romeos are picking up decent speed around here, especially around the banking. Well, trying to draw alongside towards Gracelands, but the outside line was the only one provided, and Dave Messenger on the inside was able to hang on, so managing to hold the position, but having to work very hard here. And this is the fight not to be last, so again it goes to show that you don't have to be at the front of the field to be involved in a great battle. There are fights up and down the order in the twin spark class, and that's been demonstrated on multiple occasions in the past. Here they go, back towards the Brook chicane. Still Messenger in front. That cone is still there as well. No brave marshal has yet decided to dash out and get it. I don't suppose it's going to do too much damage there. It's right on the white line, more or less out of the way. Of course, the drivers try and run down that white line in towards the chicane. A nice exit from the chicane there for Mel Freeman. It's not quite enough to get up the inside. Now, I did suggest earlier on that the lack of rear wing on that 61 car might give him a bit more straight line speed. It's time to put that theory into practice now, because he's taking a nice wide sweeping line through turn one. He's in the toe as well. Dave Messenger might have to defend down at the Dean Hairpin, but Freeman actually didn't seem to have a great run down the straight there. He's late on the brakes though, and again with the wide line into Dean, it looks like he's lost almost and he's going the wrong way, but he's just trying to cut back to as late an apex as possible to carry the speed down the shorter straight towards Yentwood. But it's fairly easy to defend here. What is easier to do though, oh dear, he's run a bit wide, but in the end that wasn't of a concern for Dave Messenger, because Mel Freeman lost the rear of the car turning through Yentwood and very nearly spun the car away altogether. So it is still going to be Messenger in front, but Mel Freeman will start to regroup and retaliate as soon as possible, I'm sure, as we move now towards the closing stages of this opening race of the weekend for the BRSCC Alfa Romeo Championship. Up the hill towards Gracelands. And Dave Messenger, car number 79, fending off Mel Freeman in car number 61. What has been a race-long duel, really, ever since Dave Messenger sort of got boxed out of that podium fight on the early laps. He's been coming under increasing pressure, right into the driver's eyes. Look at that fantastic shot as Dave Messenger is given a shot by Mel Freeman through the Tarzan hairpin. I'm pretty sure there was contact made then, but we felt like we were almost sat in the cockpit of Mel's car with him then. Great shots here from the rear-facing camera on Dave Messenger's car. Where's he gone? Where's he gone? There he is. He couldn't be any closer. Fantastic stuff as they come off the corner. And Mel Freeman diving to the inside line. Now, is there a gap there? Not quite. Dave Messenger moves over to cover. Great footage there, looking back from Dave Messenger's car. There is Robin Eyre Mansell, who we saw not getting a great start, but he is still going. He's running in third place overall, and third place therefore within the Power Trophy, but he's some 10 seconds or so behind Scott Austin, and not running terribly quickly through the corners, it must be said. Robin Eyre Mansell's car seems quick down the straights, but just struggling a bit through the twisty stuff. We did see a little bit of that at Silverstone, although he didn't start race 2 because the car, after the green flag lap had been completed, was sat on the grid. All of a sudden the hand came out of the window and he was a non-starter, so good to see Robin Eyre Mansell getting towards the end of this race, but not going quite as quickly as he might have liked. Back through this long, off-cambered, blind left-hander at Gracelands, a really challenging corner, that one. And then down onto the brakes at Tarzan, where the peak Alfa liveried machine of Robin Eyre Mansell is just trying to get to the end, trying to finish on the podium. Very pretty car again though, is the 156 GTA. So it's not a standard 156 as we see racing in the Twin Sparks. Of course, Paul Webster's car also is modified, the Power Trophy, running to a slightly higher brake horsepower per tonne range than the more standard 16-valve 2-litre engines in the Twin Spark cars. Back across the line he goes, and getting now into the closing stages of this opening race. There is Tom Hill. Tom Hill is leading the Twin Sparks. We've said that a few times already this year, and with another victory and another 20 points about to go his way, he's starting to build up what could be an unassailable lead. He could win the championship here today if he can get more than 40 points clear of well, anybody else. At the moment it's Christian Leith who's his nearest rival, and if he gets more than 40 points clear, then he will have the championship. Of course, because he has no more dropped scores that he can take, he really just needs to finish these two races. Back down towards the right-hander at Yentwood. Now, what happens in this battle could be crucial as to whether Tom Hill does win the championship today, because Richard Ford and Christian Leith, who are second and fourth respectively at the moment, are both championship contenders. They are third and second in the points respectively. Christian Leith on 179 is 18 points behind Hill, so Hill needs to take at least 13 points out of him to get that barrier above the 40-point mark. Going to be that easy to do, but Christian is only down in fourth place at the moment, so that's an 8-point gain straight away. There is our overall race leader though, Paul Webster, and with a class victory for him, he's going to start climbing up the championship table as well. And actually, if he comes back out for the final few rounds, which we believe that he will do, the question is going to be whether or not he can get second in the championship outright, because if he keeps winning his class, because of the slightly less predictable nature of the Twin Spark racing, you never quite know who's going to come out on top there, although Tom Hill's done a good job of trying to make it predictable this year with his 7 wins. But it means that it's not always the same people finishing on the podium in that class, so it's harder to be consistent, whereas in the Power Trophy, this weekend there are only 3 Power Trophy cars here. Paul Webster is quite clearly the class of the field, 2 seconds quicker in qualifying. He's built up a margin in this race that is getting on for 30 seconds, and providing nothing goes wrong with the car, a double race victory is looking fairly likely, so he could be set to take some quite big points out of some of those midfield runners, or sort of runners inside the middle of the top 10, shall we say. Towards Grace Lyndsay goes, less than half a lap to go now, as Paul Webster is really looking very strong here at Rockingham. Down onto the brakes, into the Tarzan hairpin, and really for Paul Webster it's been a faultless drive here this afternoon at Rockingham. He makes his way up the hill and in towards the final chicane, and there is no one else in sight. I know it's not a massive grid and it is quite a long track, but I don't think he's even really had to deal with any back markers. Now everybody's still running on the lead lap as well, so Paul Webster really just needs to stroke it home. Out of the final chicane he comes, and Paul Webster sees the checkered flag and takes his 3rd win of the season, and a timely one as well to start moving back up the championship table. As I said, there is nobody else in sight. He's going to end the race nearly 30 seconds clear of, we presume, Scott Austin in 2nd place and Robin Eyre Mansell in 3rd. Those two were about 10 seconds apart last time we checked. I think that gap is much the same as it was. Tom Hill in the lead of the Twin Sparks, unlikely to be beaten. There is Scott Austin. And Scott Austin does finally cross the line, and what's the official winning margin going to be? 28.7 seconds clear was Paul Webster at the flag. There's Robin Eyre Mansell. He comes through in 3rd. And then the wait for the Twin Sparks begins. I think Tom Hill, yeah, he's not that far behind actually. There he is. Tom Hill flashes the lights, and it is an 8th win of the season in the Twin Sparks. For 2nd place, it's mighty close, but look at that, Richard Ford ahead of Christian Leith. So what happened to Andy Hancock? He dropped down to 4th there towards the end, and that's crucial because it means that Tom Hill only takes 2 points out of Richard Ford and only 4 out of Christian Leith. It's looking increasingly likely, therefore, that the championship will go down to the wire. So an overall victory for Paul Webster. Then it was Scott Austin and Robin Eyre Mansell. Tom Hill wins the Twin Spark with Richard Ford 5th, Christian Leith 6th, then Andy Hancock, Riccardo Lascelli and David Messenger in 9th. Outside of the top 9, well, Mel Freeman was the only remaining finisher. We lost Avni Rapika, unfortunately, before the start of the race, and a couple of others failed to take the start as well.
Paul, fantastic win there. Talk us through the race.
Well, it was just a sort of race where it's just a case of getting into the first corner first. We have the twin sparks behind us starting on the same grid on the same light, so because their tyres are hot straight away, we have to be very careful watching out for them. But fortunately I got a great start and made it to the first corner before anyone else, and then just held it there, so it's quite comfortable in the end.
Obviously this is one of the last times we'll potentially be here at Rockingham. Do you have any fond memories?
I've driven it a couple of times. It's only about my third season, so I haven't driven here too often, but I like it. It's nice to have a very, very high speed corner across the bank in here. There's no other track that does that, so to be flat through there is quite exciting, if not quite scary.
Well, we will let you go enjoy the rest of the win today, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks very much, thank you.
So Scott, started second, finished second, happy?
No, never happy with second because it's first loser. So, but yeah, I mean, the other car, the winner, Paul's car, is much faster than my car. So yeah, I'm very happy with second, really.
So how did you feel with the car on the track?
It was trying to rain most of the morning, so it was pretty slippery to start with, but it was okay. I've never been here before. It's my first time, and I think it's almost the last time Rockingham will be used as a motorsport venue, which is a shame. It's a great track, and yeah, it's a bit of a surprise going anti-clockwise for the first time, to be honest. So that was nice, different.
So is there any hair-raising moments for you on the track then?
I had one, I was looking for the third place car in my rearview mirror and missed my braking point completely and had a four-wheel drift almost onto the grass. But apart from that, it was okay. But, you know, just me being an idiot as usual.
Brilliant. So obviously looking ahead to tomorrow, have you got any work you need to do today?
I'm going to do a little setup change on the car this evening, see what the weather is tomorrow and then do the tyre pressures accordingly. But that's about it, really. Just chuck some fuel in it and drive the thing.
Brilliant. Well, we'll look forward to it.
Thanks a lot.